Yeah. Hey, what's up, guys? Coach D here. And I want to talk a little bit about the CrossFit Games. This is going to be a long one here that we're talking about it. Because I have this idea that I want to get out there into the world and hopefully it gets picked up. You know, somebody grabs it and runs with it. And if you do grab it and run with it, hey, come on, get me. Let's run together. But what it is how to, and this is just spitballing ideas here, you know, how to legitimize and make the CrossFit Games and the season in general just a little bit better. Right now, and it's always been like this, there's a specific way that they run through the CrossFit Games, right? Or how to get there. They've changed it a few different times, but for the most part, it's the same. If you want to go to the CrossFit Games, you do the Open, the CrossFit Open. From the CrossFit Open, you make it into, used to be a regional, now it's like a quarterfinal in your gym. Then from there, if you make that, you go into a semifinal. If you win or you do good in the semifinal or whatever it is, you go into the games, right? If at any point in that, say you have a bad event, you have a bad workout, or you got sick or something like that, you're done. Your season's over. And you're not going to the games. And that year, that whole cycle of season, you're going to get a little bit forgotten about. Just because the train keeps going. It's going to kind of move on without you. But my idea, and I've been thinking about this a lot, and I talk about it a lot with my members at my gym, and have some heated debates about it, is what if we ran the games and just like professional CrossFit in general, we ran it very similar to Formula One, how they run their events. So hear me out. Formula One has races that they run, obviously, every year. And they have a season. And let's see. Once again, I'm literally spitballing this off of my head. I just had it in my head and I wanted to talk about it. So I just want to see how many races there actually are. So Formula One. How many races are in Formula One? How many races are in F1 in a season? Okay, so it's 23 races, and this is a worldwide sport. Obviously, it's very similar as well to CrossFit in the sense of you're not going to college for it, right? You got to have a little bit of expendable income to be able to even be good at it and to be able to get good at it. So it's a weird kind of like upbringing. The main thing with CrossFit is if you can't get it into high school sports, you can't get a scholarship for it for college, it's never going to get as big as these other sports. It's not going to get as big as football or basketball or even gymnastics, things like that, because these kids have no reason to want to do it, right? When you can play baseball and potentially get a scholarship, when you can play football and get a scholarship, or soccer or whatever it is, why would you, as a young athlete, choose CrossFit if you see these other ways to be able to pay for your education? Or now you have all these likeness things going on in college where you can actually make some serious money. So it's like, why would you do that why would you go CrossFit if that's not even an option for you? You're just like killing yourself for nothing, right? To make like what, a couple $100, couple $1,000 if you do really, really well in an event. So anyway, that was a tangent. Back to it. What I'm thinking is, and you run it very similar to Formula One, where there's the 23 races, you have so many teams, right? So say you have Formula One, let's see, how many teams are in F1? So Formula One has 10 F1 teams, right? So there's 10 franchises, if you will. And they have 23 races. And they go around the world, and they take their little tour around the world. Think about that as these major CrossFit events. Wadapalooza, Granite Games, the French Throwdown, Lowlands, everywhere where there would be like a semifinal. What if we ran those events? And obviously everybody would have to be on board with this, and it would be great. It would be great, make money for everybody. But you ran those events like these were scheduled races, if you will. This is a sport of fitness. So, and all of these teams came to that event. So it's not just one or two big names there, like Wadapalooza. You get like a handful. You get the Noah Olsons and like, Ricky every now and then, or somebody pretty big. Pat, I think Vellner has been going a few times. But imagine everybody's there. You get the whole kit and caboodle of athletes going to your thing. So tickets are going to sell out. People are going to want to go and see that, and it's going to be its own big thing. And then you have your event on top of it. You have your people, local people going and paying and doing all that stuff. But at that event, there's also this giant F1 race, or this giant CrossFit event, very similar to F1. F1, like when you go to COTA for the Formula One race, it is in Austin, and it's 4 days long, and they're running races all the time, and they're having a festival and events, and you're there, and then they're doing qualifying, and then the last day on Sunday is the race. But there's a bunch of stuff leading up to that, and it can be the same way. You could run it very similarly. So imagine you have 10 franchises, right? And this is how you can make people now get to be able to make serious money, make a living, make a career out of being a CrossFit professional. Not just like, oh, yeah, I do CrossFit and nobody knows who you are, but you can actually build a brand very similar to like these F1 drivers and things like that, and these teams. Because think about it right now, the camps that we have, and think about those camps as like Mercedes, Alfa Romeo, McLaren, right? You have HWPO, you have Proven, you have Invictus, you have NorCal Fit, you have CompTrain. I mean, and then there's a bunch of them, right? They're all out there. Mayhem. And these teams, or these, teams or these franchises here pay in for the year to CrossFit to be a part of this bigger season, this touring season where it's, X months long. Let's see, let's Google that. How long is the F1 season? Let's see. Does it tell you? I'm sure it does, but I should have been a lot more prepared. But like I said, I was just kind of spitballing. My mind just kind of went to it, and I just really wanted to talk about it. How long is the F1 season? Start to finish, maybe? Start to finish. Let's see. 8 months. So the season is about 8 months long, and you could do it I'm telling you, the exact same way. So think about it like this. Say HWPO pays a fee to CrossFit to be a part of the season, they pay a franchise fee, okay? They get access to all these events, and they put a team together. Say they get 10 athletes. Each team, and I'm just making this up as I go along, but this is better than what we're doing right now. So they get 10 athletes. You get 5 guys, 5 girls. Let's call it 14 athletes. You get 5 guys, 5 girls, 2 alternate guys, 2 alternate girls. So there's 14 players or people on a team for the year. You claim 2 guys and 2 girls as individual athletes that compete individually throughout the season, right? But they still earn points for their team. But they also are in an individual race. And then everyone else runs the team events. Does this make sense? Could you do it in a different way where like you can mix and match individuals, where you have a team of 5 guys and maybe at Wadapalooza you send 2 guys individually and then everyone else goes team and you send these 2 girls, and it makes it a little bit more strategic, but they are representing HWPO. They're representing Mayhem. They are that team, and you get points for you individually. So there's an individual race, but then you also get points for your team, constructors, if you will, or your team's leaderboard, and both of those make money at the end of the year. If your team wins X amount of dollars at the end of the year, and if you win, obviously you win X amount of dollars at the end of the year, or you work it out with your team. Because I think in F1 how it works is these racers are salaried, so they get paid beginning of the year, or they're signed contracts or whatever, and they get paid $20 million, $30 million a year to do the year, and any money they make goes to the team. But they've already been paid out. So you could do that very similarly to that. You could say HWPO pays and this is a small number, I'm just throwing it out there, $1 million, right, for a franchise fee, right, to CrossFit to start this to be a part of the season, right? Anything that they win throughout the year goes back to HWPO's bucket, right? But they, in the beginning of the year, have signed contracts out to their 15 or 14 athletes, and they have bought their services for the year. Just very similar to any sport where you sign big contracts, right? You sign 5. So say HWPO has Mal O'Brien. They sign Mal O'Brien for a 5-year, $3 million deal. This is me just literally throwing numbers out there. And not that HWPO has $5 million, $3 million laying around, but this is like how you make it legit. This is how you build the sport. You sign her for $3 million, right? She now doesn't have to worry about money, doesn't have to worry about anything, and she's a part of the HWPO team, and she does everything for HWPO. HWPO also brings in, has a deal with Nike. So now HWPO and Nike are tied together, but then you can have maybe the comp train guys are got a deal going with Adidas. So now their whole team is sponsored and run through Adidas. And then you have a whole different group of people that want, maybe the jump ships in this and they want Puma, and they're working a deal with Puma. So now all their gear is Puma. And then you just build your marketing and you build your brand and your team around, and you have all of your own things. You have your own, everybody has their own facilities. You got Mayhem's got Cookeville. I think HWPO's out in Vermont somewhere. You got New England is in comp train, and then you bring your athletes to you, and then for the season, you run the season. So you have these, not that you're going to have 20 plus events, but maybe you have 15 events throughout the year, and it's 6 months long, and they travel, they go to every team goes to each thing, and you have all these teams competing, the who's who of CrossFit competing at this Granite Games, right? So it gives you more incentive as like a person that enjoys CrossFit or likes CrossFit to go to these events and be like, oh, hey, I'm going to go. And it's like a big deal going to that event because you're going to see everybody. You're going to watch these people compete. And then potentially you can compete yourself. And then you have that tour go all around the world because CrossFit is a world sport. So you can go to like the South Fit or whatever down in Buenos Aires and Lowlands. I think Lowlands is in Netherlands. I made that up. Somewhere in Europe. But there's events everywhere. And then now you build the brand and build the sport, and then every year you do a new pool, or you have contracts that you've signed. Maybe you sign them for a year, just the season. Maybe you sign them for 2 or 3. The big names like the Vellners and the Fikowskis, and they're like the staple of the team. And then now the Open, it turns into an actual like open leaderboard to potentially grab new athletes for your team. So you want to compete in the Open because that's your way of getting like tape, if you will, or getting like on the rosters for someone because you're putting up really great numbers. And these teams are like, ooh, we like that person. They got a good personality. They're good at what we're doing here. We need that athlete, and you get signed through the Open and then through semifinals. But it's amateur at that level, and then as it gets bigger and you get signed, you get picked up by one of these 10 teams or whatever, it's now professional, you've become a professional, you get signed by them, and you do the year or whatever. I just think, obviously, that is a very rough way to think about it, but I think it's a super cool way as well to be able to make money and make it legit and be able to make it like you have a professional team and you're a professional CrossFitter. Because right now, there's 10 people that can make a living that they can retire off of for CrossFit, and then you have to win the games multiple times in a row and then build a brand off of that to be able to really do that. So you're still working really hard. You're just not competing. I mean, if you're in the NFL and you make it and you sign a deal, if you're smart with your money, you're good. You've made it. I mean, obviously, if you're done with your money and you're buying Lamborghinis and stuff like that, yeah, you're probably going to need another job or anything like that. But if you're smart with your money, you invest it, and you do the right things with a couple $1 million, $5 million, you're set. And imagine as a CrossFitter, you have the potential to get signed and make $100,000 in a year. I mean, that's a great salary for just doing fitness. And with each team, okay, So you have every team. So there's, say, I'm just throwing it out there, 10 teams, right? And you have the athletes. So you got 10 teams, and each team has 20 athletes. I just threw that number out. I know I said 14 earlier, but 20 is an easier number. So you have 200 people in the CrossFit world that are on these teams that are now professional CrossFitters. And everybody else in that pool of athletes is now trying to get onto one of these teams. And can it be more than 10? Absolutely. Whatever brand or whatever camp wants to buy into this franchise and be a part of it, they buy in. And they be a part of it, and then they get into the season and into the year. And it makes every event way more fun. Now there's standings throughout the year individually, and there's standings throughout the year for teams, and it builds the season, all the way up to the end, which is the CrossFit Games. And then the CrossFit Games is the same. You go in with whatever standing that you're at, and then now you're just competing at this last final event, and maybe the last, instead of all the teams going, maybe only the top 5 teams get to go to the CrossFit Games, and then individually it's separate. Like, whatever standing you're at, you take the top, 30 teams, and then you have people from the open that can still make it through that style, like the open, semis, quarterfinals, semis, and then into the games, and that's a separate pool of athletes, and that's how they become a name, and that's how they get big, and then they get signed by one of these bigger teams, and now you're on a roster, and you're a name in the sport, and you've grown. Something to think about, right? Not once again, I didn't say it the cleanest way, and I definitely could get, make it a little bit more, make sense a little bit more, but if you got all of these big competitions that are already running, we got them all on board. Now they're a part of this tour, this season of CrossFit, where everybody's going there, the syndicate, everybody's going to Lowlands, everybody, like the whole gang, not just one or two athletes, everyone. They're definitely going to say yes. Like that event would say yes, because now they're going to be making so much more money. It's not about them just being like, now they have to pay an athlete or something like that to come to their event. They have to go to your event because that's how their team goes there. That's the season. Just like in F1, like everybody goes to Monaco. They set up. Everybody goes to Austin for the Race of America, COTA or whatever the race is there. Everybody, they travel. They go to Singapore. They go to Japan. They go all over. They go to Miami. And it's not like they have a choice. That's where their team's going. That's where you get points. That's how you make money. That's the sport. And at the end of the year, there's an individual champion, just like there is now. And then there is a constructors or a team that wins, just like there is now. And that team gets all of that money back. And then maybe they pay kickouts or whatever, but the team gets that money, and then now they have the title of, they have the best driver and they have the best team. Very similar to F1. Like Red Bull right now is running the fucking show. They have Max Verstappen, who's just killing the game. Before that, it was Mercedes with Lewis Hamilton, winning like 7 times in a row, and everybody wanted to be, at Mercedes, or everyone was buying Mercedes gear, and every time you go, you could run it the same way. You have gear that you buy at each competition that's separate, that's like special or whatever, and you have the jerseys and shirts and hats, and they change the colors every year and blah, blah, blah. You have team, not uniforms, but maybe shorts that change every year because all these guys pop their tops off anyway, or you could have shirts. It doesn't matter. But I'm saying the potential for that to be huge and be fun to watch and to have it on a network now, because every week or every other week there's a race or there's things going on, makes it make more sense. Now there's an opportunity for sponsors to come in, because it's not just one big event, it's multiple events throughout the year. It's not just going to the United States, it's going global, everywhere. And now you have way more eyes on you, and advertising makes more sense for one of these bigger companies to be able to jump in and build the brand and build money. Because how we get this CrossFit thing to be more legitimized is professionalize the sport. I don't care what anybody says. I own a CrossFit affiliate. I love CrossFit. I've lived and breathed CrossFit for 12 years, longer. And the best thing that you can do is make it something where kids want to aspire to do it. Just like soccer, football, baseball, they have these guys on this posters of, Ronaldo on their walls, and they have posters of LeBron, and they want to be in the NBA, and they want the riches, and they want the fame, but they want to play that sport at a high level, man. They want to be the guy. And in CrossFit, you don't really have that. You don't have the ability, you don't have these big dreams of like, I got a big dream of winning Wadapalooza. No, that's not a thing. You have these dreams of winning the games. That's one thing throughout the year. Imagine you could win all these different races, and you could go and have a banner hang in the HWPO headquarters and have all these trophies, and you're the guy, just like, Senna, was the guy, back in Lewis Hamilton is the guy. Like, you could be these big names. It's a cool thought to think about. It's a cool way to like possibly change the atmosphere of CrossFit and make it more of a real legitimized sport. Now, yes, you would need to bring in legitimate judging that travels everywhere. You'd have to have real, like a governing body, like F1 has a governing body. You'd have to have that same thing, a CrossFit governing body where there's rules and there's an actual rule book and there's an actual stipulations and how the points work and all that. All that would have to be ironed out, of course. But to say that it's not possible and that you couldn't do this is definitely the way it could, like, you could do it very easily. And if you got everybody on board, I mean, dude, and everybody like saw the benefit of it, because it does make a lot of sense, and each brand can grow exponentially. Yeah, you put in X amount of dollars, but you're going to get all of that money back so quickly through sponsorships and through people buying your gear, or through your deals that you're going to make with, whatever clothing brand or whatever supplement brand or whatever you bring in. Even that's your own responsibility. I think the F1 franchise fee right now is like almost $1 billion, like for a year. I mean, I made that up. Let's see what it is. F1 franchise fee. $200 million. So any new team wishing to join the grid in the future will be required to fork out a hefty $200 million, a fee intended to protect the prize money of current teams. The sport's new Concord agreement that will govern F1 2021 to 2025. Okay, I made that $1 billion number up. That was a lot. But $200 million, that's a lot of fucking money. Think about that. They have 10 teams, each paying $200 million to be a part of the tour or whatever, the races or whatever. So yeah, that's $1 billion. Am I dumb? Am I making that up? Did I just make that up? What's 200 million times 10? Yeah, 2 billion. That was such simple math. I'm so stupid. Anyway, they have $2 billion now towards their races, towards professionalizing the sport, towards their pots, towards whatever. And now these events don't have to fork out money, right? CrossFit has all the money. They put on the event because they have $1 billion or whatever to be able to do it. Can you do it that way? No, you can't charge $200 million because that doesn't make any sense. Can you charge $1 million? Possibly. Could you charge 500,000? I think you definitely could do that. And I even think $1 million isn't pushing the stipulations here. If you get the right sponsors and you get the right people involved, you could easily charge a franchise fee of $1 million. But think about what it's going to do for your team. You get HWPO to throw in $1 million. You get, say you have 7 teams that all threw in $1 million, right? That's $7 million. And now they have to figure out how to pay their athletes or whatever. And then with that $7 million, you put that towards all the events throughout the year, okay? And so every time you have the potential to win your money back, right? As a team, you win your money back. And then if you do well, you're going to make a lot of money. You're going to sell a lot of shit. And you're going to get a lot of sponsorships. These $200 million, like Mercedes puts that up. But like, yeah, they sell cars and different things, but they have crazy amounts of sponsorships all over their shit, on their vests, on their cars or whatever in there. And I'm sure it's insanely expensive to be a part of the sponsorship team. Let's see what that costs. How much is an F1 sponsorship fee? Several $million per year. It all comes down to the agreement made between the sponsors and the F1 team. Sponsorships will cost several $1 million per year. $7 million per year. Think about that. That, once again, can CrossFit get to that? Yes, absolutely. Is the sport big enough to get to something like that? I definitely think so. Like right now, no. But could it grow to be that? I think so, because it's a worldwide recognized sport, and it legitimizes it even more. And you could also bring in different things. You could bring in strongman. Now there's a HWPO and NC Fit. Now, like on the different, at every event, there you have a strongman event. At every event, you have a bodybuilding event. And at every event, and you're building the team, and you have all of these people now a part of your brand. It's just such a fucking great way to do it, and I wish CrossFit would just like look into it just a little bit. Maybe call the dude from F1 or the president of F1, the chancellor, or the CEO, whoever he is, and be like, hey, how'd you guys do this? How'd you make this happen? What was the best way you did? Like, you know, you were able to really get this thing going. I mean, it's been around for 100 years or longer or whatever, but that doesn't mean that you got to start somewhere. The NBA isn't that old. NFL is what is it now? I mean, they've had like 50-something Super Bowls, but so, you know what I mean? Like all these sports are still pretty new comparatively. So it's like you can figure it out, do it the right way, and man, now you have a generation of kids wanting to be the next Rich Froning, the next Matt Fraser, the next whoever, and you become a real sport. And when you become a real sport, now you can help people. Just like the NBA has NBA Cares, and they do all this other crazy stuff in their communities, and all these guys are making